Have you ever wondered if somebody is faking a mental illness to avoid punishment? Well, this is something called malingering, and this has become a real challenge in forensic settings. Malingering essentially is faking or exaggerating symptoms for a clear benefit. This is most common in, of course, competency evaluations, insanity defenses, or disability injury claims. And some of the traits of someone who might be malingering is over-the-top symptoms that don't match disorders. And this isn't going to always be obvious, like somebody, if they broke their arm, they're sitting there crying. Like, it's not gonna always be super obvious, especially when it comes to faking a mental disorder. They also have very inconsistent answers. And they will refuse tests at all costs. It'll always be some sort of excuse or just a way to avoid any sort of testing. And forensic psychologists use what's called a MMPI-2 or an SIRS to spot the red flags. And unfortunately, it's still not always that easy. Some people study these tests and essentially put them to memory so that way they can fake it even further. And when we catch malingering, it protects the system from being misused. Another issue we do have in the court system is false confessions. And false confessions happen a lot more than you think, whether it's somebody getting a good deal or it's somebody being coerced in some way to giving that false confession. Either way, that person is being forced to confess to something they didn't do. And there are 3 types of false confessions. One of them is voluntary, so that is usually that person is trying to protect another person or to get some sort of attention. Then there's coerced compliant, which is to escape interrogation or to avoid some sort of harm. Then there's coerced internalized, where this person actually starts to believe that they committed the crime. And there are traits of these certain types of people who are vulnerable to false confessions. There's always, of course, younger people, younger kids, teenagers that are definitely more vulnerable to it, and people that are mentally impaired. And then, of course, if your feelings or emotions are kind of in overdrive, like when you're stressed, tired. And then, of course, this kind of ties into if you're interrogated for a certain amount of time, which is usually several hours. Police interrogations are only allowed to last a certain time because of this. And then police have certain tactics for trying to get a false confession, which is, of course, lying about evidence, promising leniency, so shorter times or things of that nature. And then they keep repeating the same question until the suspect essentially just breaks down, or they rephrase the question to try and confuse the suspect. Forensic psychologists tend to spot these issues and help courts see the warning signs. This is another type of issue we need to work on. Eyewitnesses can be a very powerful and useful tool in court, but is it a good tool or a bad tool? And how reliable is an eyewitness statement? I think we all kind of know at this point that memory can be subjective, whether it's somebody trying to influence a memory or just somebody simply forgetting something. Some factors that can alter a person's memory are stress and fear, especially during the time of the crime, the time delay with interviewing somebody and identifying that person. There's also some questions about police interrogations and questioning. There's also cross-race identification. Some of the traits of an unreliable testimony is overconfidence is definitely one of them. And then giving details that weren't in the original. Then there's always a chance that this eyewitness could be influenced by one person or another, or by one situation or another. While eyewitness testimonies can be a useful tool, unfortunately, it's one of the biggest errors in a court system. And unfortunately, this can cause a wrongful conviction. Forensic psychologists have been studying this issue and helping more with police investigations and interviews, police lineups. Forensic psychologists have been trying to help. If we rely too much on a eyewitness testimony or an eyewitness's memory, this can again cause a wrongful conviction. And of course, at the end of the day, we want the right person being convicted. We don't want an innocent person that could have just been a bystander. Luckily, forensic psychologists are studying how to use eyewitness testimonies in a more resourceful way. At the end of the day, the wrong person isn't being convicted.